How y'all doing? I hope you're doing well. Hope this heat's not getting too bad. I know where my neck of the woods it's hotter than Satan's balls. It has been miserable. Sooey. I kind of escaped out of the house today. I ended up walking because I got asked by the VA coordinator in my neck of the woods if I'd meet with a young man who'd just gotten out of the military relatively soon, and the young man was asking about going into college. So what I usually do is I have him meet me at this McDonald's. It's relatively close to the medical center. It was about like a 15-mile walk. I didn't jog it or nothing because it's too dang hot. I was already kind of sweating buckets when I got there, but I'm still not. I don't like driving right now just because I'm so freaking dizzy. So anyway, I got there. The young man was already waiting for me. He was actually pretty well dressed. Not like in a suit and tie or nothing, but he also didn't look like he'd been sleeping on a bench, which is always a good sign. And I ended up buying him lunch. I had a cup of coffee, and we started chatting. And I do my usual annoying spiel whenever he starts asking me, or either whenever they start asking me about my background, or if they start asking me about what I did in the military, or if they start telling me, I usually like military stories. I usually cut them off like, "Hey, that's not what this meeting's about. This meeting's about your future, not your past, not my past, not my present, not even your present. It's about your future." It was actually a pretty nice conversation because the young man was completely honest with me and was willing to talk and be pretty open about the fact that he knew he wanted to go to college, didn't know what he wanted to study. He knew he wanted to try to go to a Big Ten school out of state, and he sheepishly admitted the whole reason was because him and his dad were always fans of that football program. And I'm like, well, let's crunch some numbers real quick. If that's what you want to go for. And flipped over the placemat and ran the numbers and gave him the old sticker shock of how expensive college is for out-of-state residents. And of course, he was like, "So you think it's a bad idea to go to college?" I said, "No, no, 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 not at all." I was like, "Listen, this is a wonderful opportunity you have. It's an opportunity that most Americans would give their right arm for. You've already sacrificed enough to get it, but you want to use it. You don't want to waste it." So I ended up convincing him that rather than jump into a 4-year college right away, that he go into community college. I was like, just take a semester, pay for it yourself. Don't start the GI Bill benefits on that. See if you like it. I'm like, you don't know what you want to study. It's a lot cheaper to discover yourself at a community college than it is at a full college. I was like, and if you're smart, you can knock out a lot of credits doing it this way while living at home. I was like, you got a good relationship with your family? He goes, oh yeah, my parents. And I'm like, good. Maintain that relationship. Don't screw that up like I did. But I think he's going to be on a good path. It was one of those sessions that I kind of enjoyed because a lot of times I'll get the stereotype where it's like, where do you see yourself in 1, 5, and 10 years, and where do you want to be in 1, 5, and 10 years? And I get the guys that are like dead, 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 dead. And it's like, okay, well, getting you into college is not going to help anyone out. Um, it was kind of funny because he eventually kept peppering me. He's like, so what did you go to, where did you go to college? And I told him. He goes, I never heard of that school. I was like, yeah, no, I didn't hear about it until I went into college there. He goes, why'd you pick that one? I said, well, it was the cheapest in-state university with an ABET certified program. And he said, what does that mean? I was like, well, I wanted to go in for mechanical engineering. And ABET is kind of like the certification. It's like the baseline. You're either an ABET approved program or you're not. And so if it's ABET approved, it's worth the time and the money. And he's like, so that's what you do? You're a mechanical engineer? I was like, nah, not quite. I'm actually an electrical engineer. And he wanted to know a little bit more about that. So I did fill him in. Normally I don't do this, but I did fill him in. I do have one of those jobs where I'm like, hey, Ever heard about this thing, this mega project? Yeah, yeah, I did that. You know, and he's like, so I guess you got to have a engineering degree to do your job. And I was like, ah, that's not quite true. We've got technicians that do my same exact job that don't have a degree. He goes, what's the difference between a degree and not a degree? I was about to 70K starting out. So if you're going to do my job, I would recommend that you get the degree. But I digress. Very nice guy. Very, very nice guy. But it was just one of those situations where for a lot of us, they just struggle. You have so much freedom. You have so many opportunities wide open to you that that freedom becomes a massive, terrifying hamstring. And I even told the kid this. I say kid just because he's younger than me. This man is an adult. But I was like, look, in the military, you got a supervisor that is making sure you dot every I and cross every T. You ain't going to have that in college. There's not going to be anybody to tell you, hey, it's a Tuesday morning. Why are you drinking? And you're thinking, well, I don't have duty today or whatever, so I might as well, or muster, I might as well just get plastered. I'm like, that's a dangerous mindset to have, and that's what screws up a lot of us. But really smart. I don't want to say really smart kid because I really don't know how book smart he is or anything, but he good head on his shoulders. That's what I want to say. So hopefully I'll get to work with him some more, and we'll get him on the way. Because again, you start looking at some of these numbers, and even with the benefits we get from the military, it's only 4 years, so you can run out of that money quicker than you realize, especially if you're struggling in school. So, and of course, I told him don't make any decision now. Of course, this is just to kind of expose you to things to consider and all. So we'll see what happens. And I also told him, look, if you find at community college it's just not your thing, we could start looking at the trades and stuff. We could still use the benefits for you to get, qualified, like as a welder or something like that. So he's got the whole world ahead of him. Really smart head on his shoulders. And what I really appreciate about this kid is he did not try to bullshit me. Sorry, I'm drinking some water. I know that's rude. I should pause the video when I do that, or the recording. I get a lot of people that try to bullshit me. And you get so used to these stories and stuff. Of course, you don't want to start a fight with somebody in the middle of a McDonald's. I've had guys try to convince me that they were in the Marines when 9/11 happened and they're ordered to clear bodies, which is why they're boozing out every day. And then the whole time you're just resisting the urge to tell them, hey, dummy, I can do math. The U.S. Marine Corps, 1, wasn't deployed to New York City during 9/11, and 2, they certainly weren't using 9-year-olds. But what was interesting was, like the other day, I found this podcast transcript. I'm not sure exactly when it's from, but it's apparently the Data Diva Talks Privacy podcast. And since I had a transcript, that's very helpful for me because I currently can't hear. And it's probably the most that I've ever seen Jackie Singh go into her background. And again, I'm so used to having people tell me BS about their military time that I've gotten, I don't want to say proficient or super good at it, but I've gotten good at the whole being able to tell when people are really just making crap up. Like she talks about how she was as a young kid, she was like a hacker, and it reads off like somebody who's watched the movie Hackers with Angelina Jolie kind of thing. It's really kind of goofy. And so she says that she joined the military when she was 17. Like after 9/11, she moved to New York City. And somewhere in here, she talks about how she got, or I love this. She talks about as a 15-year-old doing phone freaking. And I know Jackie was like born in what, 83, 84? I don't want to go into it too much. But by then, that scene was pretty much dying by the time she'd be 14. Like the phone system had gotten sophisticated enough that you couldn't just blow a 2600 frequency tone in the receiver and make free phone calls. By that time, Captain Crunch had been figured out. So she talks about how like she's like this radical anti-government teenager, and then at 17 she enlisted. And right off the bat, it's kind of difficult to enlist at 17, even right after 9/11. Your parents would have to sign a waiver and all to do that. I didn't really know, out of all the people that I knew in the military, I don't think I knew a single person that was enlisted at 17. And I was in the military before 9/11, but most of my time was after 9/11. And like, right, I was a teenager hacker who dropped out of high school the day after she turned 16 so she could spend time with her friends in the hacker hallway or halfway house, quote unquote, in New York City and Brooklyn. Um, this right here, I am going to call it out and say that this is bullshit. There is no way that Jackie Singh was able to enlist in the United States military, and I think she said she did it in 2003 or 2002. There's simply no way she was able to do that then. I know a lot of people imagine that when 9/11 happened, the U.S. military was really scrambling for recruits, and like the U.S. military really lowered recruiting standards. Actually, the opposite occurred. Pre 9/11, I was able to get the waivers for my height being so tall and so big. Post 9/11, I would not have been given those waivers. And the reason is whenever the United States or any country goes under attack, young people enlist in spades. Probably two of the largest, or not largest, but the most obvious lies that I hear from Vietnam veterans all the time is one, they were drafted, and two, they weren't drafted, but they had the choice of going to prison or enlisted in the military. Both of those are like kind of bullshit. The vast majority of personnel that lost their lives in Vietnam were volunteers during Vietnam. The draft wasn't actually pulling that many people out. This was the whole reason why the U.S. military didn't have a problem with college deferments, because they just didn't need that many bodies. There were so many volunteers. And so like when like around 2002, 2003, they would not have been taking somebody, especially for somebody in a non-combat role, to enlist without a high school diploma. I would doubt that she'd be allowed to do that even with a GED. Now, maybe she got a GED and maybe she got the waiver, but you're already kind of talking about like a unicorn kind of situation. Now, this is different, year 15 of the occupation of Afghanistan or year 10 of the occupation of Afghanistan. And that's when the patriotism wave was kind of already down. And now everyone's like, why the frick are we still there? Why are we sacrificing lives for Afghans who clearly don't want us there? That would have been different. Like if Jackie was talking about her enlisting in 2015, then yeah, I could see her being allowed to enlist if she got a GED. Now, I was a little surprised that she says some of this stuff in here, because usually when she talks about her background, everything that I've seen, like on her website and so on, she implies that she did high-level cybersecurity and threat analysis while she was enlisted in the Army. And that never really drived with me. So real quick, when you enlist in the military, if you're in the Army, Marines, and Air Force, you'll get an MOS. It's like an occupational series. It's a code system that tells people exactly what your job is. And I think if you're in the Navy, you get like an NEC, which I think is Naval Enlisted Code. I'm not exactly sure. And I think the Coast Guard has something very similar, like an NEC. But these are digits that you could share with somebody, and they know exactly what your job classification was. Like I could share you my MOS. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not. I'm not willing to dox myself to that extent. I'm very, very protective about these kind of things, even though I talk too much on the internet. I firmly believe that if Jackie had an MOS that indicated that she did any kind of stuff like this, she would be shouting that out to the rafters. Because anybody could look up that code. Now, I don't know if she doesn't know what that code would be, per se. That could be it. She doesn't know what code to pick. Or it could be that she doesn't want anyone to go to the trouble of her um, FOIAing her DD-214. That's her discharge paperwork. Like if you were able to figure out my birth date and I want to say it's my birth date and my full name, you could probably FOIA my DD-214. And you would be able to see what training that I got, how long I was in, when I was in, where I was deployed. You would be able to see any military awards that I had, and you'd also be able to see any military punishments that I received, any kind of non-judicial punishments or any kind of like court martials. And you would also be able to see like the nature of my discharge and so on. So the way she describes this here, like so once I was deployed to Iraq and come back and left the military, I decided to go back over to Iraq, and I was working as a contractor, first person repairing vehicles and stuff. I used to work on tanks, so this makes me think that she was probably in the motor pool when she was in the army. And I'm not going to shit on anybody that was in the motor pool. The skill and effort that some of these folks in the motor pool, it's absolutely breathtaking. You would not believe how much damage an MRAP or an M1 Abrams tank could receive. And as long as we could drag it back to the motor pool, you'd be amazed what those folks could rebuild. That was one of the big reasons why you see a difference between the performance of the United States military and, say, the performance of Russia. Russia can't recover their vehicles. The U.S. not only can recover the vehicles, the U.S. can keep vehicles in service for far longer. Forward operating motor pools can keep tanks in operation that Russia would just torch and leave in a field. So it takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of training, and she should be proud of that. So then she ended up working for this contractor for Raytheon. And yeah, I'm familiar with Raytheon. I've done contract work for Raytheon and so on. This man was instrumental in my career because he really took me under his wing as a young soldier, yada, yada, yada. So instead of being this military person, this soldier who was having the responsibility or whatever the wider military was saying, no. Whole bunch of arduous bullshit. So she got hired for her very first IT job. This sounds like to me that she just got moved over to like the IT help desk or something. Or maybe she was like his secretary. I'm not sure. It's very hard to tell. The whole thing though is like, yeah, you're telling me about how the time you actually got your first job, how did you become the lead cyber incident responder for the Biden administration? Like these are kind of words, terms. It's kind of like when you meet somebody from HR and they have like some flowery freaking title and you're like, no, your job is just to make sure that my medical benefits are like the forms are filled out correctly. Stop referring to yourself as like this crazy coordinator. She name drops and she uses a lot of silly buzzwords like knowledge management officer. I have never heard this phrase. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe different branch, whatever. But knowledge management officer, that sounds like the dumbest made up title I've ever heard in my life. Now, she's referencing like the U.S. Army's human terrain system. And her description of this is basically what you can read off of Wikipedia. It's exactly what you could read off of Wikipedia. Now, one of the things, if you ever interact with like military people, and especially veterans, even years afterwards, they will start spouting off acronyms at you. And there'll be acronyms inside of acronyms. For example, the Army has this thing called, they had it, I don't know if it's still around, JIDO, Joint IED Defeat Organization. So IED is, of course, improvised explosive device kind of thing. There's all these different acronyms and buzzwords and so on. And what I'm seeing from Jackie is she's just explaining it in the most cartoonishly broken down, what you can read from Wikipedia kind of way. I'm not seeing anything in here that like, I'd go, okay, what she's dropping is, she's dropping stuff that I don't think somebody who just read Wikipedia would catch up on. I also love how she mentions Captain Phillips because she's talking about Djibouti. Africa, which is, yes, it's technically next to Somalia, but Djibouti doesn't actually have a pirate problem. Jackie, one Somali is not the same as another Somali. Somali is an ethnic group, and they expand out beyond Somalia. But like, if you, it's like, you ever seen this movie? Um, which, if I'll say this right now, if Jackie had access to the SIPRnet when she was in, when Captain Phillips had his old escapade, she wouldn't reference that movie. I'll tell you that right now. Uh, Captain Phillips was not a hero in that actual event whatsoever. Captain Phillips nearly got all his boys killed. Captain Phillips was a jackass, and that movie is not based on hardly any reality. Um, but again, this is all a bunch of like buzzwords and stuff. It's the kind of crap that I run into when I'll be sitting down with somebody who's just, they're trying to impress me about what they did in the military, and I'm just like, no kidding, no kidding. So you were in the Air Force in their ground unit, ground and pound unit, huh? Oh, wow, that's crazy. Oh yeah, yeah. You did special op missions in North Korea. No kidding. Oh, that's crazy. Oh yeah, I've seen that movie, Navy SEALs. Oh, you know, that one, the main character is based off of you. No kidding. Kind of thing. It's just silly. I just, I just keep seeing more and more of these people on the on like social media pop up. So you get enough exposure for the product company to knock on your door and say, "We need your help." This right here, she's got to basically admit, I sent in my resume. It was she doesn't come out and say this, but I'll come out and say it. It was an unpaid position. She just showed up and she gave herself that fucking title. And they completely forgot that she was around until they got notified by that paper about her background with doing trolling shit online. And then they're like, okay, you need to go away. No, we're going to pretend like we never knew you. It's just funny. Attention to balance of working on cyber. Like, that's the other thing. Like, Jackie doesn't have a job in cybersecurity. Jackie, pro tip. I get what you're trying to be. You are trying to be a consultant like this lady. All these people want to be cybersecurity consultants. So here's a pro tip from somebody who has traveled all around the world doing commissioning work and who regularly will be requested to come in, get flown in across the Atlantic or across the Pacific to sit down for an interview with a major engineering consulting firm. Don't give away the milk for free. If you're doing podcasts and stuff, talking about your expertise and what people should do, no. You're giving away the milk for free. That's a red sign right there. Nobody's going to hire you. Nobody hires an engineer who has a podcast. Nobody hires a cybersecurity expert who has a podcast. You have a podcast to tell you're making your money. You're making your money on a podcast or a blog because you can't make money as a cybersecurity consultant. 2, Jackie, for the love of God, you need to get certified. I have not been able to find a single evidence anywhere on the internet that you have any certification. I can't find any evidence that you've ever had a degree. I'm not even sure if you've ever gone to anything beyond high school that you say you dropped out of. This isn't the 1980s anymore, you know? Nobody's hiring the stoner kid because people can't figure out how dial-up works. The standards are a lot higher nowadays. So you need to get certified and stuff. And 3, for the love of God, stop bringing up events that got you fired, like the Joe Biden campaign, where you were publicly fired. You're a shit can. I'm surprised she doesn't get a cease and desist. It doesn't really matter because they don't care. But as a consultant, I've seen this again. I want to know right now, Jackie, since you're a consultant, what company has paid you as a security consultant? It's like, she's basically, I think, a combination of a troll and a bored housewife. It's just, and I wouldn't have a problem with her, but like people like her and that Shane Nugs guy, when they see Patrick getting fucked, or not even getting fucked with, just interacting with a normal human being, They go in the full "I'm gonna ruin your life" mode like they did to Leslie, and she didn't do anything. She didn't do anything. Her only crime was not knowing the entire backstory about Patrick and then observing how unhinged he sounded. So, oh, by the way, I noticed somebody asked me to do a video on some video or like a video response because I guess Patrick was on a current affair. I can't really do it just because that video, the audio is not syncing, or I'm not able to like use my the audio quality is not good enough for me to use the what's it called, the text at the bottom. It just comes up as gibberish. I have no idea really what they're saying. Which, by the way, that woman is still hosting that current Farrah show or whatever. Good Lord, was she in her like 80s? I mean, she looks good, but you'd think she'd be retired by now. I remember her when I was like a kid, I think. But I tend to look at the world like Alexi. No, I guarantee you she has no idea who. Like she doesn't know anything about this guy. He is the dissident that Putin has in a, which is fundamentally a tuberculosis death camp. But I just love when she pontificates about shit. I did see some positive stuff recently, talking about starting to talk about the federal government ready for quantum computing and the advent that, and we need to prepare our agencies. I think that's really valuable stuff. I would love Jackie to try to explain in her terms what she thinks quantum computing is and how far away she thinks we are from developing it. I think that'd be fucking hilarious. I see so many of these people that do this where they bullshit. I don't even like in Jackie's case. I got an idea what happened because I see this happen with people where they'll start telling some little lies and the lies get bigger and the lies get bigger and the lies get bigger. And like I think she shared more information in this than like this is what amazed me about this me finding this thing. I think she shared more information than she normally ever does because now she heavily hints like she was doing the cybersecurity stuff, threat analysis when she was a grunt in the army. Which no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And like her talking about how like if you read through this thing, she talks about how like the contractor she worked with was like the first contractor in Afghanistan or Iraq, whichever one it was. And it's like no, we had contractors in there like day 2. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, lady. I just yeah. It's just funny because you can see all these different podcasts she's done by these weirdo podcasters, and they're all kind of the same thing where I didn't realize there was like this whole industry of people that do these cybersecurity podcasts. And when I look at them, and I wish I could listen to them, say la vie, they don't ever seem to say anything of like substance, really. It's just yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I just think everything that Jackie says about her background is bullshit. I think a lot of people around her that she drops hints that she knows say shit about her that are bullshit, either for good or to make her look good or to make her look bad. I think it's all bullshit. But I digress. I'm done rambling. I had a good day. You got out of the house. Hopefully helped a young man on the way to further personal success and professional success in the future. So I'm feeling good despite this ungodly heat. I hope you all take care of each other. Check in on the elderly and so on because this heat can kill. Ciao.